I love my 2005 Ford F-150 Lariat truck, but today I'm going to talk about five, uh, well, no, 10, I'm sorry, 20 design flaws. I'll define what I mean by design flaws later, but let me start again. I'm going to talk about 20 design flaws on the 2004 through 2008 Ford F-150 trucks. But this information may be helpful for any 2004 through 2008 Ford F-150, 2006 through 2008 Mark LT with either the V6 or V8 engines. Today's 11th generation 2004 through 2008 F-150 video is dedicated to my friend Marcus Maximus that just bought a new used 2008 Ford F-150 STX extended cab with a 4.6 liter engine. He needs this video, and I hope you'll find it useful as well. I have many other videos showing general automotive work, modifications, and tips. If you find this video helpful, consider subscribing and watching the other videos. To subscribe, just click the Stiles Automotive icon in the lower right of the screen. Yes, I love my truck, but you can probably tell that I do in my many other videos on the 2004 through 2008 F-150. Ford has one of the most popular trucks on the market, the Ford F-150, and my 2005 Lariat is equipped with every feature except heated seats and a sunroof, and I did a video to add the heated seats. The sunroof is not a big deal to me. Most F-150s come equipped with a ton of features, and with its superb capabilities and great styling, we often see the truck in its best light while displaying its best features. But we overlook the glaring problems of the Ford F-150 that range from annoying to dangerous. These problems have led to recalls, but not many, safety concerns, but not many, and reliability issues. Today I want to show you the problems with the truck, design flaws, or things that are not normal wear out items, and what you can do about them, so that you too can love your truck like many of us do. Look, my truck has never left me hanging, but it could have. You see, on some cold, snowy, wet night, at the worst possible moment, I don't want Marcus or you to say, "Son of a bitch, Stiles, why didn't you tell me about this problem so that I could fix it?" So I could have fixed it on some warm, sunny day. That is the motivation for this video. As you continue to look at the exterior of my Oxford white and Arizona beige truck, I'll describe my process. To make this big list more manageable, I've broken it into three categories. Group 1, catastrophic failure, which causes the truck to be unusable and possibly unsafe. Group 2 may someday cause catastrophic failure, but you have time to identify the problem before becoming like Group 1. Group 3, annoying issues. Those are the three categories that I will use. So you might say, with all these design problems, why do you keep your F-150 truck? Well, I'm going to talk about the issue description and what you can do about it, and then if there's anything that you should do right now, because there are a few issues that if you haven't corrected them already, you need to act as soon as possible to correct. Let's get into Group 1. These are the issues which causes the truck to be unusable and possibly unsafe. Item 1, Ford 3-valve engine spark plug design and difficult replacement procedure. Description. Affected vehicles include 4.6 liter, 5.4 liter, and 6.8 liter 3-valve engines found in many 2004 through 2008 Ford vehicles. 3-valve engines may experience difficulty with spark plug removal, which may cause damage to the spark plug and leave part of the spark plug in the cylinder head. The issue is part of the spark plug below the seat or sealing surface that sticks into the cylinder head and the design of the cylinder head that shields the spark plug. This bore area fills with carbon and corrosion, which causes the cylinder of the spark plug, this bottom part of the spark plug, to cement itself in place. And when the spark plug is removed, the cylinder part of the spark plug or the tip of the plug breaks off and either stays in the cylinder head or falls into the cylinder. Overcome by doing this. By using the correct service bulletin, which outlines the process, and see my video, Spark Plug Replacement 2004 through 2008, 4.6 liter, 5.4 liter, or 6.8 liter 3-valve Ford engines. I'll put a link to my video in this video's description. The idea of the long procedure is to loosen the spark plugs no more than 1/8 of a turn to 1/4 of a turn, apply penetrating oil, and fill the spark plug well just above where the jam nut sits. Wait a period of time, tighten the spark plug, then re-loosen the spark plug 1/8 of a turn, and wait a period of time, again repeat until the threads and that bore area is saturated with either carburetor cleaner or a penetrant. Do I need to do something now? Even though the new spark plug design is improved, I recommend you replace your spark plugs every 50,000 to 70,000 miles. Ford says to replace the spark plugs every 100,000 miles. This is my recommendation, not because the spark plugs are worn out, but because of the spark plug threads, carbon problem, and issues discussed earlier will be reduced. And ensure you use a good nickel anti-seize on the new spark plugs. Also of note, 2 more issues. I call these item 1A and 1B. The V6 engine uses a cylinder head with very little spark plug thread engagement, which allows the spark plugs to loosen. In TSB 07-21-2, Ford acknowledges that some 1997 through 2008 vehicles equipped with the 4.6 liter 2-valve, 5.4 liter 2-valve, and the 6.8 liter 2-valve engine and aluminum heads may experience a spark plug port with stripped or missing threads. I also consider both of these design flaws. If I didn't cover the 3-valve spark plug problem above, both of these would merit their own numbers, but I add them as a bonus to keep my design flaw number limited to 20. Item 2, individual coil on spark plug or COP failure. Description: individual coil on spark plug failure is a common problem that causes a misfire condition which either illuminates or flickers the check engine light on your 4.6 liter or 5.4 liter Ford engine with a misfire diagnostic trouble codes or OBD2 codes of P0301 through P0308, meaning 301, 302, 303, 304, 5, all the way through P0308. Overcome by doing this. When it occurs, by using your scan tool to determine which cylinder is the problem, and watch my video, Cylinder Misfire Troubleshooting and Coil Replacement, 2004 through 2008 F150, 5.4 liter, and 4.6 liter engines. I'll put a link to that video in this video's description. And also watch the Stiles Automotive video, which demonstrates the test for the coil, which is a bench test. Look for a link for that video in this video's description also. Do I need to do something now? This problem occurs frequently enough that I keep a spare coil on hand. You should consider doing so also. Also, the coil on plug's electrical connector can break. More specifically, what breaks is the locking tab that prevents the connector from becoming disconnected from the coil on plug coil. This is a very, very, very common problem with the 4.6 liter and the 5.4 liter Ford engines. If you do have some of these connectors that are broken, you can buy them. I'll put a link to an Amazon page in the video description. Item number 3, poor oil flow to the number 2 and number 3 cylinder head area. Poor oil flow to the number 2 and number 3 cylinder head area causes premature wear on the camshaft, the lifter, and the rocker areas, mainly in the number 3 cylinder. You may say, dude, you got 200,000 miles out of this engine. What do you expect? I think of it this way. If a $20 or less lifter and rocker fail consistently in one of 2 cylinders, and on the other 6 cylinders the life is twice as long, I don't care what the mileage is. So if my engine fails at 200,000 miles and the other 6 or 7 cylinder head components could have gone 400 to 600,000 more miles, this is a design problem. It may tick for several thousand miles, but once a lifter and rocker is bad enough, it will lead to catastrophic engine failure. These rocker arms have a roller that rides on the lobe of the camshaft. The rollers contain a roller bearing, which commonly fails. True, these bearings can fail in any of the cylinders, but again, they fail more frequently in the number 2 and number 3 cylinders due to poor oil flow. And of course, like all hydraulic lifters, the hydraulic lifters can also fail. Now, if there's poor oil flow to these cylinders, it stands to reason that these lifters would also fail more frequently. Overcome by doing this. Overcome with regular oil changes, or by replacing the stock oil pump with a high volume oil pump. Do I need to do something now? Again, regular oil changes, and add a quart of Marvel's Mystery Oil at 500 miles before your oil change is due, or use gunk motor flush at the time of the oil change. These 3 things help eliminate the caked on carbon and oil deposits in the oil passages of these affected cylinders. This will greatly improve the oil flow on high mileage engines or engines that have not been properly maintained. So let's talk about a similar problem for the next issue in the front of the engine. Item 4, timing chain, chain guides, and cam VCT solenoid premature wear or failure. That's the cam variable cam timing solenoid. The Ford 3-valve or 3V as it's known engine oil pump is weak, and the oil channels going to the camshaft phasers are made too small. So over time, especially with poor oil changes, you starve the cam phasers, particularly on the passenger side, of oil and cooling. Lack of proper lubrication causes premature wear on the cam phasers, timing chain, and chain guides. This issue increases with lack of proper oil change maintenance, which increases oil deposits in the oil channels, further reducing oil flow. Overcome by doing this. Like the cylinder head issue, overcome with regular oil changes or by replacing your stock oil pump with a high volume oil pump. Do I need to do something now? Again, regular oil changes, Marvel's Mystery Oil for the last 500 miles before the oil change, and or motor flush at the time of the oil change. This will clean the oil channels and maximize flow. And that's if you don't do regular oil changes. If you're doing your regular oil changes with synthetic oil, then you probably don't need to use either of those 2 products. But again, most people don't do that. They'll let their oil changes go. And if you've done that, it wouldn't hurt on the next oil change to use either of those 2 products at least once to try to maximize flow. Item 5, the fuel pump driver module, or FPDM, corrosion and failure. Modern Ford engines do not use a fuel pressure regulator. Fuel pressure is controlled by a module, the fuel pump driver module. The fuel pump driver module on the 2004 through 2008 F150 is located above and in front of the spare tire, underneath the bed of the truck. From a corrosion perspective, this is the worst location to mount an easily corroded electronic component. When the fuel pump driver module aluminum body corrodes and crumbles apart, causing a failure of the module, the fuel pump will not run, causing the engine not to run. I consider this a design flaw because the fuel pump driver module should last the lifetime of the truck. The problem is the module body is an untreated aluminum which easily corrodes, and it's mounted in a location that can get salt spray, and then it's not easily cleaned. The new Ford module comes with new studs, but an untreated case. Ford recommends that you use some protectant on it. Overcome by doing this. See my video, corrects cranks but won't start condition, fuel pump driver module for the 04 through 08 F-150 trucks. I'll put a link to that video in this video's description. Do I need to do something now? Yes, replace your fuel pump driver module now. If you know your module hasn't been replaced and your truck is a 2004 through 2008 F-150, it needs to be replaced. Do it now. Item 6, automatic transmission issues. This issue is really two issues, and the one issue basically fails in two different ways. No overdrive or reverse gear due to the overdrive or reverse gear band breaking. True, the overdrive band can break, but more commonly, the overdrive accumulator snap ring has a failure. The snap ring of the overdrive servo will break, causing the accumulator to drop out. Once this happens, the overdrive band will release and you will lose overdrive, or the truck will briefly go in and out of overdrive. For the reverse gear, typically the band breaks. Overcome by doing this. When this occurs, rebuild your transmission. Buy a new snap ring and replace it along with the accumulator and check balls in the valve body. A rebuild will set you right again. Do I need to do something now? No, don't do anything now. Just know that it's a potential issue. This will help you identify the problem when it does occur. Now that concludes Group 1. Now there may be other things that I haven't identified. If there's something that you think ought to be in Group 1, let me know in the comments and share them with others. So as we switch to Group 2, let me redefine my Group 2. Again, this group may someday cause catastrophic failure, like Group 1, but you have time to identify the problem before becoming like Group 1. I caution you here, if you let these problems go, they will eventually cause more damage to themselves or other components, may cause the truck to be unusable, or may cause an unsafe condition. Let's get right into it. Item 7, right side exhaust manifold warpage and exhaust leakage. The right side or passenger side exhaust manifold warpage, which causes leaks at the rear of the manifold. Leaks are caused from the manifold warping or sometimes from the last or second to last manifold stud breaking. I don't know if this is a heat related issue or a casting issue. It may be heat related because of how tight the area is on the right rear of the engine, which limits airflow and may cause the manifold to run hotter there. Overcome by doing this. By replacing your exhaust manifolds with aftermarket headers and new stainless steel studs, or simply with an inexpensive exhaust manifold replacement and new studs. Do I need to do something now? Nothing to do immediately, just if you hear a slight exhaust manifold noise or a ticking noise, take action then. Item number 8, four-wheel drive hub vacuum solenoid failure. Yes, this is a water issue caused by the mounting location of the four-wheel drive hub vacuum solenoid when the solenoid prematurely fails because of consistently being wet. It either fails in the open or closed position, which causes the automatic hubs, or properly called the integrated wheel ends. It doesn't really have the hubs like standard four-wheel drive trucks have that are locking or manually engaged type hubs. These have the integrated wheel ends, or IWE, and it causes those automatic IWE to either be stuck engaged or disengaged. Engaged, the half shafts turn, causing excessive wear in the front axle assembly and low gas mileage. Disengaged, the IWE freewheel, and you don't have four-wheel drive when you need it. So that could cause an issue if you really are in a situation where you really have to have four-wheel drive. I've been there, and it caused me to learn everything I needed to know about this vacuum solenoid and my four-wheel drive system on my F-150. Overcome by doing this. Replace the four-wheel drive vacuum solenoid with an aftermarket solenoid that includes a plastic shroud. This shroud prevents water from entering the solenoid. And see my 2 videos, four-wheel drive automatic hub engagement troubleshooting and solenoid bypass for 1997 to 2018 F-150s, and the second video, four-wheel drive automatic hub locking vacuum solenoid replacement. Do I need to do something now? Yes, replace it at your earliest convenience. And learn the operation of your solenoid. Vacuum pulls front axle hubs out of drive and into freewheel. No vacuum allows the springs in the front axle hubs to engage the hubs into four-wheel drive. To manually engage the hubs for four-wheel drive, simply unplug the vacuum connection at the solenoid. To manually engage the hubs, you need a jumper hose to go between the 2 ports of the vacuum connector on the vacuum lines at the solenoid. For more detail on this, watch my 2 previously mentioned videos. Item 9, 4.6 liter and 5.4 liter idler and tensioner pulleys premature failure. Of course, all idler and tensioner pulleys fail after a period of time. These pulleys have sealed bearings that are not greasable and have a limited lifetime. The idler and tensioner pulleys on both the 4.6 liter and 5.4 liter engines fail prematurely due to a poorly designed layout of the drive and driven pulleys on the engine. In other words, there is excessive wrap on the idler pulleys and the tension pulley, which causes excessive load on them, which leads to premature wear on the bearings. This is the sticker from the air deflector on top of the radiator in the front of the engine compartment of my 2005 F-150. On the lower right corner here is the belt routing for both the 4.6 liter and the 5.4 liter engines. Let's go to a little bit better graphic that shows all the pulleys in detail, similar to that graphic from under the hood of my truck. Here you can see at the top, number 3, that's the alternator pulley, and then the belt comes around and goes through one of the idler pulleys, the power steering pump pulley, the inside idler pulley or rib pulley around the water pump, then the harmonic balancer pulley, then the tensioner, air conditioner, back up through another idler pulley, and then back up to the alternator. Most modern engines use these idlers and a tensioner. Of course, the tensioner needs this kind of wrap to get the pull, that it needs to keep the serpentine bolt tight. But what I'm talking about is the wrap that's on these idler pulleys. They just add excessive load onto the belt, and what they do is they create more wrap around each of these pulleys. So you can see how this one's pushing in, creates more wrap there and more wrap here. This pulley pushes down here and provides more wrap on the alternator and then the power steering pump pulley. Likewise here, trying to get more wrap around on the water pump pulley. Like I say, most modern engines don't have this amount of idler pulleys on it, creating this excessive drag. Most of them are designed so that they get the proper wrap just from the location of the individual accessories that are being driven. So that leads to premature wear. I've replaced these pulleys 3, maybe 4 times in 200,000 miles on my truck. Overcome by doing this. Replace your pulleys as part of your periodic maintenance to ensure that you don't run them to failure. To replace your pulleys, watch my video, Accessory Drive Belt Idler Pulleys Replacement, Serpentine Belt Equipped Ford Vehicles. I'll add a link to this video's description for that video. Do I need to do something now? No. However, the next time you service your serpentine belt or other driven accessories, consider replacing your idler pulleys at the same time. Item 10. Power steering pressure lines and cooler corrosion and leakage. After 150,000 miles, all of my power steering lines, to include from the pump to the steering gear, from the steering gear to the cooler, and from the cooler to the reservoir, were all extremely corroded to the point of crumbling apart. Don't take my word for it. Watch my video, Power Steering System Rebuild, where I remove, clean, and reinstall new components in my power steering system to see just how corroded my lines were. No, I don't expect things to last forever. However, when the other lines, like the brake lines that are within 2 inches of the power steering lines, look fine after 150,000 miles, and the power steering lines are corroded to the point of crumbling apart, I believe there's something wrong. A coating could have been added to the lines to improve their performance, or they could have been made out of a more corrosion-resistant material. Overcome by doing this. Watch my video to gain an understanding of the system and motivation to ensure your system is in good working order. Inspect your power steering system now, and if it is corroded, replace it at your earliest convenience. Do I need to do something now? Yes. Inspect your power steering system and all of the components for corrosion. Item 11, steering linkage, stiff and needs lubrication. I know I'm probably going to get a comment on that title, but this is a very serious situation and it's very common. This may not be a design fault. This problem occurs on many vehicles, foreign and domestic, that use steering U-joints. However, on the 2004 through 2008 F150, the steering shaft is located very near the left side or driver's side exhaust manifold, which causes heat issues and corrosion. So, this may be a design issue after all. Overcome by doing this. Watch and use my video, correct hard steering condition, lube steering U-joints for the 2004 through 2008 F-150 trucks. Do I need to do something now? Even if you don't have the stiff steering, you can clean and lubricate your steering shaft. So yeah, do something now. Go ahead and clean your steering shaft. Item 12, airbag crash sensor or the impact sensor, corrosion and cracking. The restraint system or airbag system impact sensor is located at the front of the truck behind the grille on the radiator support in front of the radiator. The sensor is mounted with one bolt that has just to hold the sensor and a little weight of the wiring harness, so it's not under a lot of stress. As shown in the short video clip, My sensor fell apart when removing it. This type of sensor should last the lifetime of the truck. This is an important sensor that, if it fails, could mean a catastrophic failure for my truck, or if it fails at the wrong time when I need it to save my life. Anyway, the sensor shouldn't have failed this way. Overcome by doing this. Inspect the sensor. If cracked, replace it. If not, remove the electrical connector, clean the connector with connector cleaner, and reapply dielectric grease. Watch my video, Impact Sensor for Airbag System, SRS Replacement for 2004 through 2008 F-150 trucks. I'll put a link to that video in this video's description. Do I need to do something now? Yes, inspect it now and replace or clean it. Ford recall on the steering wheel airbag wiring issue. Ford said it will recall about 144,000 F-150 half-ton pickup trucks from the 2005-2006 model years to fix a problem that can cause the driver's side airbag to deploy without warning. The recall is a result of an investigation by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration last year. According to the NHTSA's investigation summary, the inadvertent airbag deployments are most likely caused by a sharp edge on the airbag's horn mounting plate that can chafe the airbag wire, leading to the electrical short that may trigger a deployment. More than 1.5 million trucks from 2004 through 2006 were part of the investigation. Ford made an interim design change to the horn mounting plate in January 2006 and redesigned it, along with the airbag module and wiring, in June 2006 for the 2007 model year. There is a relatively low risk of inadvertent airbag deployments, Ford safety spokesman Wes Sherwood told the Detroit News. Ford is committed to safety and will continue to work cooperatively with the NHTSA in addressing any further questions. So here's my take on it. If you look at the design, the way the wires go through this piece of metal, there's actually two little wiring harnesses that penetrate this little piece of metal. It's obvious that they're not held on, they're not mounted to the plate very well, so they're able to move with any vibration of the truck, so they could chafe the insulation of the wires. So I'm saying it's not a good design. Overcome by doing this. Execute or do the Ford recall. Do I need to do anything now? Yes, have the recall done at your favorite Ford dealer. Item 14, high mount or third brake light housing leaks water. The high mount brake light housing leaks water into the passenger compartment and into the upper roof frame that allows water to flow to the floor and door framing. This design issue can cause all sorts of electrical gremlins and will slowly rot away the cab and interior. You can often, but not always, identify the problem because a leak can cause staining on the headliner above the rear window. This is the reason Ford F-150 cab corners rot out from the inside. I believe Ford should have designed this so that when the water flowed into this assembly, it could flow out somewhere to the outside of the truck instead of flowing down into the inside frame rail down below the doors and rotting out the cab corners. I think that's just totally unacceptable. I think they could have designed some kind of a tub, plastic tub, up underneath the assembly to catch the water and then channeled that some way outside of the vehicle. Rotted out cab corners and that lower frame below the doors, when that rots out, just destroys the truck by greatly reducing the rigidity of the cab. Not necessarily the brake light assembly itself, but how it's mounted, and that if water gets in it, it cracks here by the screws, the two screws, or it leaks around the gasket when the gasket gets old. And there's a channel here that runs across the top and back of the cab, and water will run down either side, and water gets onto the cab corners in the back of the cab, and then it rusts out the cab corners, or it goes along the cab on each side, and then it rusts out those channels, the reinforcing channel frame for the cab. So the design flaw being water gets in there and it can't get out. This should have been designed with some kind of a housing here that either takes the water and takes it directly out of this area, or takes it down through there and allows it to drain. But it also has holes in this channel up here. So one of the signs that you're having a leaky brake light assembly is that your headliner may stain or be getting wet, or maybe moldy a little bit, or your cab corners start to rust out. That's a sign this is leaking. So by the time your cab corners are rusting out, it's too late. Like mine have already started rusting and bubbling. So water has infiltrated those cab corners somehow, either through this brake light or some other method. And but this is definitely an area that leaks. The solution then, replace this third brake light assembly with one that has a new gasket and it's not cracked. Overcome by doing this. A common thing to do is replace it with a cool looking aftermarket equivalent, but those usually start leaking again after a year or so. Ford redesigned the gasket on the lamp assembly, which is much thicker, extending its life. It is much better to buy a redesigned Ford lamp than any aftermarket assembly. Do I need to do something now? Yes. If you have not replaced it, replace your light housing now. It is inexpensive and extremely easy to replace. Unless your headliner is staining, you don't know you have a problem until your cab corners start to rust through from the inside. Replace your high mount brake light assembly today. Item 15, sticky brake calipers. Sticky brake calipers, both front and rear, are a common problem on the 2004 through 2008 F-150. The National Highway Traffic Safety Administration's complaints section of their website lists 20 complaints under the service brake heading. I believe my problem, more than anything, is dirty brake caliper slides, and sometimes dry slide pin or pins. If I removed my caliper every 30 to 40,000 miles to clean them, I would greatly increase their life. Often I don't do this, and I experience sticky brake calipers. At that point, it's too late for that set of brake pads, and it's often too late for the brake rotor as well. Overcome by doing this. I like to use pad, rotor, and caliper kits. More expensive, but it makes for a quick replacement. And the new calipers have fresh seals, which help the pistons return. I use a good nickel anti-seize for caliper pin lube. It's high temperature and it works well. Also, replace the brake hoses every 120 to 150,000 miles or every 10 years. Do I need to do something now? No. Just know that it's an issue for many F-150 owners, and inspect your brake calipers and your brake pads regularly. Item 16, frame corrosion. How much corrosion is acceptable before it is considered a design issue? Well, the F-150 has enough corrosion that it is a design issue. The F-150 inside of the frame is known to rust and crack just before and at the fuel tank area on both sides of the truck. Just Google F-150 frame rust and you'll see lots of evidence. Many people have this problem. This major frame corrosion may be due to several factors. One, the box frame, and because the box frame design Ford used a thinner material. 2, a thinner material. 3, Ford failed to coat the frame or use a more corrosion resistant material for the frame. And finally 4, due to the box frame design that is likely welded, Ford failed to treat the inside of the frame after welding. Now, this is a common issue after welding steel, and the heat from the welding process ruins the previously applied corrosion protection, or is often impossible to reapply to the inside of a component. Overcome by doing this: keep your truck out of the salt and wash it regularly. Impossible, you say? Yeah, I'm kind of saying that in jest. So I agree. Inspect your truck often, and there are repair kits out there. Dorman makes one for the left side and one for the right side frame rails of your truck. Do I need to do something now? Inspect your truck's frame. This is not likely, but watch and hope for a Ford recall in the future that replaces your truck's frame, because this is such a common problem. Other manufacturers have done this kind of recall, but don't count on it for the F150 from the 2004 through 2008 generation. That concludes Group 2. If there are other things that should be included in Group 2, let me know in the comments and share them with others that may be watching this video. Now, as we switch to Group 3, let me redefine Group 3. Again, this group contains annoying issues. I admit I do have some pet peeves, and some little things do annoy me. The following is my list of design flaws that fall into this category, how to overcome them, and if you should do something now. Item 17, window switches. Mainly the master or driver switch, slow operation from poor contacts. In this video, I'm trying to get my driver switch to hesitate before moving the window up and down. I'm not having very good luck. My windows work pretty good after I've installed dual batteries a few years ago, so they get full voltage and full power to the window switch. This window switch that I'm pressing in the video used to be very annoying. I'd have to press it 2 or 3 times and kind of hammer on it to get my windows to move, but notice that it's working very well right now. A common complaint that Ford receives is faulty power windows. I haven't noticed a problem with any of the other window components, really, other than the window switches. Sometimes you have to press the window switch 2 to 3 times to get the window to move. This is mainly the master or driver switch, but it can be the others as well. Overcome by doing this: by replacing the offending window switch, or taking the switch apart and cleaning the contacts. Do I need to do something now? You don't have to do anything with the window switches. You could live with the problem. However, the problem ranges from annoying to dangerous. Annoying most of the time if the window continues to roll up. Possibly dangerous if you get to the point where the window won't roll up or down anymore, and in an emergency you must open the window. I know, you can always open the door, right? But it's an annoying issue. Item 18, blend door or blend door actuator failure. The blend door mixes the hot air with the cold air in the cabin of your truck. If the door is broken, sometimes only hot air, sometimes only cold air, will blow through your vents. This depends on how the door broke and in which position. Sometimes, and with the same symptoms, the blend door solenoid may have failed. Overcome by doing this: by first removing the actuator to inspect the actuator and the shaft. If it's okay, replace the blend door. Do I need to do something now? If your heater system works okay, just know that it's a potential issue. Very common on F-150 Fords. Item 19, the body control module, or BCM, connection failure, or really the same thing, automatic headlight intermittent fault. Also note that Ford sometimes calls this a multifunction module, MFM, or a body security module, BSM, depending on its function. It's installed in different models of F-150s, and some models are equipped with features that other models don't have, so sometimes they've renamed it. And sometimes it's the same module, and sometimes it's a completely different module, all located in the same location behind the rear seat on the left side of the truck, or the driver's side on those models that have a rear seat. For those models that don't have a rear seat, it's mounted on the wall underneath the rear window on the driver's side. The connector on the body control module has small pins, causes intermittent problem with the automatic headlights. Overcome by doing this, by doing one of three things. The first, simply remove and reinstall the connector. This allows the small pins and sockets to make a better connection. Ensure that you use a good contact cleaner and then dielectric grease on the connector to first clean and then prevent corrosion in the future. 2. Replace the body control module. Or 3. Replace the electrical connector, each as necessary. The electrical connector on the wiring harness or on the BCM may be so bad that replacement of one or both of the components may be necessary. Do I need to do something now? If your automatic headlights don't work, but work manually in the normal mode, remove, inspect, and then reinstall the body control module electrical connector. Item 20, general wiring issues or general wiring harness issues. You can tell from the previous items in this video that I've had a lot of wiring issues. I admit a lot of them are related to the snowplow wiring harness, but some of them are forward wiring connector issues. I've had connector issues on the body control module or multifunction module, which resulted in the no automatic headlights, the window switch issue, the high mount brake light heat damage to the wiring harness, a clock spring issue, the fuel pump driver module issue. Some of the common F-150 problems that I have not had include the bad connection at connectors on the left side of the frame, about midway on the frame, on the driver's side or left side on the outside of the frame. Bad or broken connectors at the engine coils or at the fuel injectors. These are a very similar style of wiring harness connector at both of these two connections, and they easily break, which will cause a misfire on the engine. Knock on wood, I haven't had those problems. Overcome by doing this: installing a dual battery. I installed a dual battery that I needed for the snowplow. See my video on design and install of the dual battery system. This has helped with a number of issues caused by dirty connectors. The extra energy helps to overcome the resistance of a poor connection. And another thing, I always recommend that you clean connectors and clean grounds whenever servicing or replacing a component. Always clean the ground as part of the process. Do I need to do something now? If you are having any of the electrical issues I talked about in this video, get out there and clean those connectors with electrical connector cleaner and apply dielectric grease to them. Item 21, steel spare wheel and tire assembly corrosion. The infrequent use of the spare wheel tire assembly corrodes badly due to its mounting location under the truck and because it's not regularly serviced or cleaned. My spare is made from steel and rusted to the point it would barely function as a spare when or if needed. Overcome by doing this: don't count on your spare tire if you haven't cleaned and inspected it. Remove, clean both your spare and the mounting cable / mechanism. Lube the cable, and do that at least annually. Do I need to do something now? Our F-150s are old enough that you must inspect your spare tire to ensure your wheel is still in good condition. Now that concludes group 3. If you can think of anything that needs to be in group 3, please share them in the comments for others that may be watching this video. But that's all I have for group 3. In summary, I know this will be the longest video that I've created, and I have been accused of being long-winded at times, but this time, like every time that I create a video, I attempt to give you, the do-it-yourselfer, the viewer, everything that you may need: the background, the task steps, the tools, and the consumables to complete the tasks that I am helping you with. On the Stiles Automotive channel, I have a number of other videos on general automotive work, modifications, and tips. If you found this video helpful, consider subscribing, which doesn't cost anything, and then watch the other videos. I hope you notice something common to all of my videos, that I enjoy cars and that I enjoy helping people. With that said, let me wrap this up. General rust and corrosion seems to be a common theme in this video. As far as rust and corrosion on the F150, it seems to me that for northern environments that use a lot of salt on the roads, the truck would have benefited from a 4-inch lift to get the body up and away from road and tires. This will prevent some of that salt from getting in areas that are prone to corrosion. But heck, I don't know. The items in this video are prone to rust anyway, so that's probably just wishful thinking. So on a positive note, the bottom of my doors are not rusting out like my 2003 F250 Super Cab did. My rear bumper and tailgate are not showing any rust whatsoever. My neighbor's Dodge of a similar year has a fraction of his bumper still on the truck, and his tailgate's about ready to fall off. My paint is in good shape. Even though my truck is always outside, my paint is in very good shape. My black leather interior looks like new. And now, I know I said 20, and it ended up being 21 design flaws. And I'm talking about flaws, not normal wear-out items, but flaws, things Ford got wrong. I point them out not to be negative, but to be positive. Again, I love my 2005 F150 Lariat. I point them out so that you or your favorite mechanic can correct them before they cause you a problem. Now that concludes the video. If you found it helpful, let me know in the comments, and please subscribe. I look forward to your comments. As you're looking at Mark's red 2008 F150 STX extended cab with a 4.6 liter, I'd like to restate, as I stated in the beginning of this video is dedicated to Marcus, or more properly called Corporal Egan. Corporal Egan was a Marine that served as an LAV mechanic. He's a private person, so that's all the detail I'm going to go into, but I just wanted to thank him for his service.